welcome to another episode of the Bottom of the Stream Movie Show. My name is Adam.
My name is Nick. Welcome back aboard the Streamboat. That's right, we're here for another week, looking for another movie at the bottom of the Netflix stream.
We are indeed. What are we watching? We're watching a wildcard. It's wildcard week.
It is.
So the second wildcard week in a row.
It is.
And Samuel Holland has played his wildcard. Great Patreon.
Yes.
Friend of the show.
Yes.
He has picked a movie called Rogue Agent.
He has.
Rogue Agent was released in 2022. It's a 15. It runs for 1 hour and 55 minutes. Currently rated at 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb and is a Netflix original. 6.4.
High.
High. Very high.
It's a high rating.
It is a high rating. It's one of the highest ratings we've done this season, I think. So we'll see if high ratings correspond with high
enjoyment.
This movie stars a guy called James Norton. He plays Robert. You'll know James Norton. He's been in loads of stuff. What's he been in?
What would I know him from?
You
I
would.
kind of know his face, but I couldn't be bothered to look at what I'd seen him in.
He is in Little Women.
Oh, okay.
He's in Happy Valley.
Okay.
One of the biggest shows. He's in the new Bob Marley movie.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Lovely hair, I thought. in
lovely hair. Really lovely hair. He's done a few Netflix originals, but yeah, that's what you're most famous for. And this movie also stars Gemma Arterton.
this. Okay.
She plays a character called Alice. She's one of these people that's been in everything, but you probably just don't know her from anything in particular.
I think she... Oh, I'm going off my memory here. Did she sort of come to fame with the sort of St. Trinian's relaunch? Is that...
I think you might be right, actually.
But she's been in stuff.
Yeah, I
over
think
the
she's in a
years,
couple of the
hasn't she?
Kingsman movies. She's in
Okay.
Murder Mystery with Sandler and Aniston.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah, a few bits above. She's one of these people that seems like really famous, but you don't really know her from anything. She's just like a famous actress who's out there. Now, this movie was written. There's 3 writers credited on this movie.
Okay.
The first one is Michael Brunner. Michael Brunner is a journalist. He works for 60 Minutes and sometimes NBC News. And he wrote an article, and that's the article that this movie is based on.
Okay.
So he gets a writing credit for writing a news article.
Good work if you can get it.
Also written by Adam Patterson and Declan Lawn. Great name. They also directed this movie.
A co-director.
Co-directed. And that is pretty much the only thing they've done.
Okay. What year was this from?
2022.
Okay, so not long ago.
Not long ago. It is a true story. It's based on a true story. I've got some facts about the actual story towards the end of the episode.
Fine.
So we'll go through that. And yeah, so we'll run through this story and see where it ends up on the stream table, shall
Let's do it.
we? Do you have a one-word review of Rogue Agent?
Rogue One.
Rogue One. Your one-word reviews are getting weak.
I struggled with one for this.
I was really aggressive. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that.
That's fine.
Get better at your
Start
fucking
with
job.
that attitude.
I'm very sorry. Where does this movie start, Nick?
It starts in the 1990s because
does.
we know this because we get some words on the screen
Yep.
for people if you don't know history or if you can't remember. It says, I've paraphrased it.
Yeah,
Can
I
I
have
do
as
my
well.
paraphrase. In the 1990s, the IRA did bombs.
Do you want to know what my paraphrasing says?
Yes.
Something about the MI5 recruiting spies to go after the IRA. There's some text on the screen.
MI5 recruited freelance spies.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't know anything about this movie before this film started,
Okay.
other than the title. So I was expecting American crime, FBI, CIA drama. I wasn't expecting 90s IRA versus MI5 British drama.
I thought it was getting like a kind of spy versus spy type
Yeah.
thing. That's not what this is.
No.
In fact, the words on the screen tell us that this movie is inspired by a true story.
Yes.
But do you think that's an interesting choice of words? So you don't get now based on a true story.
You get inspired by.
Inspired.
Inspired by means this true story happened, but we can really change it if we want to,
Yeah.
which is what's happened in this movie.
It's we've gone a bit more all out on it.
We've gone Hollywood on it. What happens in this movie is not the true story of what happens with this guy in real life.
And we open and a man is driving in the countryside
He is indeed.
through Shropshire, in fact.
Yeah,
we
Shropshire.
see this because he enters the county.
And he arrives at a lovely looking pub.
He does.
And it turns out he's come to this pub for a job.
Yes, and we also get a voiceover from a woman
Yes.
saying that she was once told by a spy that they have a trick to instantly get the attention of their mark, I guess,
Yeah.
by holding eye contact just long enough to register the colour of someone's eyes
I was making
That
eye contact with Nick.
makes the connection, apparently.
Okay, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
He gets this job at this pub, and it turns out he's like hiding in plain sight because he is a spy, and he works for MI5, and he's trying to infiltrate a group of IRA students who frequent this pub.
I think, yes, because it is close to an agricultural college.
Yes. And he reveals this to a group of students that he meets whilst working in the pub.
In the pub, yeah.
So this is Ian, Sophie, and May. And he tells them, look, he's an MI5 spy. He needs assistance from some students at the university, and he has selected these 3 people to infiltrate this group of
Make friends with
potential
these-
IRA terrorists.
Yeah, potential terrorists.
So they do. They all. Sophie doesn't want to do it to start with. She's the most vocal about, I don't want to do this. But by this point, he tells her it's too late. You're already in. I've already
What
told
he says,
you.
he says, you will be helping save lives. They say our spy is still unnamed at this point. He says these guys are students at the college, but they're stealing fertilizer
Yes.
to help make bombs. And he says, if you can work as my informants, we will save lives together.
Yeah.
That's his pitch.
So he sets up a plan where they have to get these guys out of their student accommodation that they live
Yeah.
in, so that somebody can go in. So basically, May and Sophie get these guys out of the house and
To
to
the
the
pub.
pub.
From
And
a house party.
Ian stays behind to look around this house to see if he can find
Yeah,
anything.
go through the drawers and
He doesn't find anything.
looking for incriminating evidence.
Yes, and he nearly gets caught because one guy comes back
For his wallet.
and but he doesn't get caught. He manages to survive.
Yeah, because the guy's like, oh, you took a shit.
Yeah, that's exactly the line. So they all go back to the pub. He reports back to Robert that he hasn't found anything, and Robert is angry, but also
Yes, he does an angry face.
yes, he does. And then the next time we see Robert is
Maybe a little time has passed, maybe?
a little time, I think, not long, but a little time, and he is waking Sophie up in the middle of the night, and he informs her that their cover has been compromised.
Yeah, and they have to
and
leave.
They have to leave. And he gets her outside in the car, and they all drive off together.
Yeah, all 4 of them.
Ian
So
and May are
Ian-
already waiting
yeah.
in the car. And they're all panicking. They're all like, they're being taken away from their lives that they've known now for all these years. And they leave together in this car. And then it comes up on the screen 9 years later.
Yes.
So we cut in forward a long time into time. We're into the early 2000s now.
Interestingly,
Yeah.
I make it by my maths because the start of this movie told us we were in 1993. We are 9 years later. That puts us squarely in 2002.
Not for the first time this season.
Interestingly, just last week, our movie Mad Dogs was made in 2002, but set in a futuristic
2003.
2003. We also, earlier this season, watched Finder's Fee,
Yeah.
which was from 2001.
Yes.
So we have now covered 2001,
And
2002, and 2003 in this season of Bottom of the
I
Stream.
remember as well specifically saying when Finders Fee came out that we don't really do movies from this time period. And now, since then, in the last 5 weeks, 3 of the movies we've done. Anyway, we follow a lady to start with. She's walking to work. She's in a power suit. She's got
Yes.
a briefcase. She's heading to work. And she walks past a luxury car showroom.
Yes, like classic cars.
We recognise the man working in the luxury car showroom as Robert, the guy we met earlier.
Yeah, the spy.
He is
in
selling
inverted commas.
cars. She is late for a meeting. Turns out she is a lawyer,
She has bust some case
She
wide
has.
open
and she goes out to celebrate busting this case wide open
with her colleagues.
with her colleagues and client. And they go out and get drunk.
One of them's like a sexist businessman.
Typical
He's like,
London business.
he says to Alice, "Oh, you're not bad, and you're a good lawyer as well." Whoa.
She gets absolutely wasted with them, stumbles back to bed. But as she's still drunk when she walks back past the car showroom, isn't she?
Yeah, they must have been after work drinks because he's only just shutting up.
Yeah,
the showroom.
so he's shutting up the showroom. She walks, shutting up the showroom. Difficult thing to say. She walks past. He kind of's like, hi, I've been seeing you from afar recently.
Yeah, I see you walk past every day.
How are you? And she says, fuck off, mate. Just like that. And walks away from him. And he looks offended and hurt.
Yeah, Alice is played by Gemma Arterton.
Yes. The next morning, she wakes up badly
Hungover.
hungover. She looks rough.
But she's still got to head back into work.
Yep, she goes back into work. She gets all suited up again. walks to work. As she walks past the showroom, I think she has some sort of flashback to the night
Yeah.
before. And she
Sticks her head
realizes,
in and says-
I was quite rude to this guy. I'm going to stick my head in and apologize. And she does. She sticks her head in, apologizes to Robert. And he says, it's fine. Would you like a lift to work in one of my luxury cars that I'm selling?
Yeah, she's like, no, no offense, but I'm not coming on to you. And he says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hungover are you?
Yeah.
She says 14. So he says, look, there's nothing in it. Just let me
take you to work. So he does. He drops off to work. When they get there, he gives her his business card. And she says, I don't usually date guys like you.
Yeah, and he's like, what? Used car salesman?
Yeah. But they do end up arranging a date.
The very next night. They will have a
They're gonna
date.
meet at 8 o'clock and have a night. So the next scene we see her, she's getting all dolled up. She looks beautiful, all dressed up in a black dress, red lippy on. And he stands her up.
Yeah, she just like collapses on the bed and swears.
Yeah.
He's like calls him a bastard. 'Cause
Yeah.
she's been stood up.
So she's not happy, but it happens. The next night, he calls on her 2002 mobile phone.
Yeah.
And it's a Nokia 3210.
It is. And she's like, don't call me again.
Yeah, she rejects it the first time. He calls again, and she's like, no, fuck off, mate. You've lost your chance. And he says, I'm really sorry. I've got an ill father who was rushed to hospital.
Yeah, he says, I was in hospital last night with my dad.
Also, I'm outside.
Yeah.
Creepy. He knows where she lives because she lives like 2 doors away from the car showroom. And also, I have you a gift. I brought you a gift. I have you a gift.
Fair maiden, I have you a gift.
So she's like, okay, well then,
Bit weird, but okay.
okay, that's fine. Come in. So he invites her in. The next thing that we know, she's eating dinner with him. And he's brought her a framed photo of a tiger.
Oh, I thought it was a cheetah.
It might have been. It was some sort of big
'cause
cat.
I was like, oh, fucking hell. This isn't much foreshadowing, isn't it? He's got her a picture of a cheetah.
Oh, I didn't even spot that. I love that. It's ugly as fuck, but it's this framed photo of a cheetah. And they end up having dinner together. He tells her he doesn't...
Well, it's a bit weird because she's like, I'll share my dinner with you.
Yeah, she's cooked dinner for herself, and then she shares it with him.
Yeah.
And he reveals he doesn't really drink, but she does, as we know.
Yeah, and he spins this story about how, because she says, where are you from? What's your background? And he says, I moved around a lot because my dad was in the military, so I've never really settled anywhere. And then very abruptly, we kind of that he really likes his job.
Yep.
And she hates her job.
Yep.
And then quite abruptly, Robert, as we have learned his name by now, just goes, well, okay, well, thanks.
Thanks for dinner.
I'll see you later.
Keeps her on the hook, doesn't he? He's got her interested, and he just walks away from her.
And she's like, oh, weird.
Yeah, she's all confused. Then I think a bit of time passes at this point as well, because by this point he's now calling her at work. They're chatting. They're getting to know each other.
He says, come out of work.
Yeah, I want to
A
show
few
you
days
something.
later.
I've got something to show you. And so she leaves work and goes to this place in London, somewhere near the Millennium Dome, as it would have been back then.
Yeah.
And it's a place where there's some Tibetan music bowls
Yes.
that have been playing and will be playing for 1,000 years.
It's a never-ending
song.
instrument
Yeah.
in a lighthouse overlooking
I assume
the
it
Thames.
exists. I assume it exists in London somewhere.
Yeah. She's like, no offense, but you are a bit weird.
Yeah, that's a
Like,
strange thing.
she can't read him.
Yeah, she's
or
like, this is
predict his-
beautiful,
yeah.
but I wasn't expecting it
why
from a
have you-
used car salesman.
Yeah.
And then they go back to her house and do some naughty.
They have a kiss. They do more than kiss.
They do a lot more than kiss, because afterwards, whilst he's out having a shower, watching him clean himself up, his phone rings. He's got a flip phone.
Yes.
And it's a lady called Sophie is calling.
Sure.
Well, you shouldn't know that, but the phone says Sophie on it. So she ignores it. Well, she clocks it and then puts it back in his coat. And then as he comes back out of the shower, it rings again. And he's like, oh, I've got to go. It's my dad.
It's my dad.
So first lie. Well, not first lie, but one of the first lies she spotted.
But remember, Alice is a super high-powered lawyer lady.
She is indeed. And she's got connected friends.
She's uncovering business stuff all the time. So she asks a colleague, who's essentially a private investigator, I think,
yeah.
to run a background check on Robert. The private investigator is played by none other than Julian Barrett,
It is
a.k.a.
indeed.
Howard Moon from The Mighty Boosh.
I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't spot that.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because it's been 20 years since I've seen Julian Barrett in anything, but I didn't spot that that's who it was. But that's cool. So he goes away and does a background check on him. Meanwhile, he goes to see Sophie. Robert goes to see Sophie.
Who is the same Sophie from the
9
start
years
of the
ago,
movie.
From 9 years ago, yeah. And she's working in a hotel.
Yeah, she's a cleaner in a hotel.
Yeah. And it's also...
A travel tavern type thing.
So, and she doesn't appear to have any food because he gives her a Tupperware of a lot of spaghetti.
So is she living at this hotel?
I think
like Partridge in it.
Yeah, I think it's a safe house. Or he's telling her she's living in a safe house.
I know, she's on the job.
Oh.
He says she's collecting.
They mentioned later on that she's moving from
collecting.
safe house to safe house.
Yeah, but at this point at this hotel, she's collecting info on guests.
Right.
That's
correct.
what he's asked her to do.
But for some reason, she's not eating any food. And so he brings her a massive Tupperware box full of spaghetti and then a separate massive Tupperware box full of bolognese. And so she just can have loads of spaghetti bolognese. It was a really weird scene, I thought. And yeah, so it becomes apparent. We don't know at this point what Robert's deal is, but we know something weird's going on. And we also know that he's now got Sophie working for him as a spy.
Yeah.
For 9 years, it would appear.
Yeah.
It reveals the background check comes back to
the
Alice.
guy's a ghost.
Yeah, there's no records of him anywhere on anything.
No.
Which is a red flag.
Sure, of course it is.
So they go on a date, and she's asking him some leading questions as they're on this date. She's kind of asking him how his dad is. She's trying to catch him in a lie, basically.
Yeah.
And as they're walking back along the Thames, they're having like a nice evening stroll. She reveals that she's had this background check done on him.
Yeah, she comes clean.
And she said, the word she says to him is, "Why don't you exist?"
Yeah.
And this is his point now, because he says, the name I have told you is my name is not my name. That is an alias that I use because I'm a spy for the MI5.
Yeah, he says, my real name isn't Robert Hansen, it's Robert Freegard.
Yes. And I'm a spy. And she's not buying it to start with.
Yeah,
but
he says, I'm undercover.
it doesn't take her long to get convinced by him.
No.
He's quite persuasive, to be fair. And he says, now that you know this, you're going to have to be vetted because I'm not allowed a relationship. Because I'm undercover, I'm not allowed relationships until the person's been background checked. So you're going to be background checked. It's nothing intrusive.
He kind of wins over because he says any long-term partners must be vetted. And she kind of visibly melts when he says that. She says, who's this Sophie? I saw this name on your phone. And Robert says, she's a colleague. She's also undercover.
Yeah.
Working this case with me.
And they end up walking off holding hands.
Yeah.
So what started as a very frosty scene, he's completely won her back over. And so then they go for a drive in a luxury, I think it was a Ferrari.
It is a Ferrari.
I can say it.
Yeah.
And he lets her have a drive.
Through the countryside. Driving fast.
Yeah. And it turns out he's rented a lighthouse for the weekend.
Yep.
For some reason, this guy's obsessed with lighthouses.
He really loves a lighthouse.
He loves a lighthouse. And they are having a romantic weekend away.
He's dancing in his towel.
Yeah,
She's
flashing
trying to
her
get
his
some
bits
work done.
He's dancing to George Michael.
Yeah.
They have the conversation of like, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Where's your life heading? He does want kids. And he also wants to leave the service. He wants to get away from being a spy.
He says he's got a dream of having his own business.
Yeah, he wants to
leasing luxury cars.
That's his dream, and he would love her to come on board with him. Yeah. Then they go to meet her parents. They go for dinner with Alice's mum and dad. The only time we see Alice's mum and dad in the whole movie.
They just completely look down on him.
Yeah, they hate him.
Not good enough for their lawyer daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. He reveals to them that they're thinking of starting this business, this luxury car business. And her dad's like, no, my daughter's a lawyer, and she will remain a lawyer, and she will always be a lawyer. Her dad was really famous, and I can't picture who he was. He's been in loads of stuff.
British.
Yeah, he was a British actor.
Stalwart.
But yeah, so it's quite clear that both of her parents don't like this guy.
Did you know what I found? I think this was one of the first times the scene with the parents. I found that this film lurched a bit between straight-laced, and there's just randomly over dramatic.
Yeah.
It's almost soapy but not all the way through, but in odd scenes.
Yeah, there's a real ITV crime drama vibe to this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why, but there is. Not all the way through, but in certain scenes there are.
There's some scenes that are really good, but then, you're right, it lurched into sort of cheapness.
Yeah, I kept imagining Robson Green or Sarah Lancashire showing up. Or
uneven
Jones.
scripting, maybe.
After this, they talk about how her dad didn't like him. And this is where she agrees to invest in his business because
Yeah.
she wants. It's almost like she's rebelling against her dad a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
He then goes to see Sophie at this hotel again, and he says, "Look, it's time to move on.
We're
We
out.
need to leave."
And she says, "Have we been compromised again?"
And he says, "No, you have been selected to become a fully fledged field officer."
Yeah, and she's
She's ecstatic. That's what she's been working for the last 9 years. And then we then cut back, and they just drive away from this hotel. She leaves all of her stuff there. She never goes back in the hotel, and they just leave. Alice then goes to meet with her PI again.
Yeah.
And he's got a bit more information about Robert. So she's fully on board with Robert now. They're in this relationship. They are in love as far as she's concerned. They've been away for this romantic weekend. She doesn't want to hear any more about him. But then this guy reveals more about him.
Yeah, the PI's like, I added to the search
Yeah.
his free guard name, and guess what? I have found some information.
Back in the 90s, he was in court for stalking and harassment of a lady.
Yeah.
And it went to court, but then the documents had been sealed, so he
Yeah.
couldn't get any further from that.
He says, I've got a phone number. I've got a phone number of the mother of the accuser.
Accuser, yes. Well, he couldn't find anything on the actual girl who had accused him, but he did find the mother's phone number.
And I think this is one of the examples where this movie lurched for me, is the very next scene,
Yeah.
just after this information has been passed to Alice. The very next scene, we get Robert saying to her, by any chance my employer's shit tested you?
Yeah.
And she's like, what's that? And he says, well, have you had any unexpected information or calls? It's usually part of the vetting test to see if you can be trusted. And it was just the way, I think that's quite an interesting lie for him to spin, but it was the way it came
Straight
immediately after the
I think-
scene where that's just happened.
I think I give him a little bit of credit there because I think he picked up on the fact that she'd gone all
And he's done this
introverted
before,
again, and she'd done that before when she questioned him last time, and he knew something else was coming. I think so. I think he just got ahead of that.
But I still think the edit was
the edit was weird.
clunky.
Yeah, so basically the MI5 are going to shit test you. They're going to drop some information that isn't true.
He's like, it probably won't happen,
Yeah, it probably won't happen. It's fine.
but it's happened before.
Yeah, but then it does happen.
And he declares his love for her.
Yeah, he does. He tells her he loves her, and she then calls this. She makes this call. She calls.
First she throws the slip of
She
paper
does,
in the
a
bin
bit in the
that
bin.
the PI gave her, and then she retrieves
it back out.
decides
And
to dial it.
She makes this call. She calls this girl's mother, and she basically wants to see if it is a test, I guess. So she speaks to this girl's mother. We don't really get much of that conversation, but then
It's something about and Alice confronts Robert.
yeah,
He says,
literally they go out for coffee afterwards,
and
and she confronts him straight away.
she says, "I've talked to this woman," and
Yeah.
she says, "You scammed her and her daughter out of 20 grand."
And he says, "I told you this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And you know this was going to happen. I told you you were going to get shit tested, and this is what this is." But
She says, "Are you telling me it's not true?"
and he says, "No, but not all of it is true. Or some of it is true, but not all of it is true."
Yeah.
And he gives her side of it, which is basically the girl was an alcoholic she was trying to borrow money from her parents all the time.
Said the 20K was for rehab,
Yeah,
and she ran off with it.
yeah, basically. And I
I had
had nothing
nothing to do with it. She ran off with that 20K.
And then she tried to stitch me up, and
Yeah.
that's how it ended up in court. And it was thrown out in a minute by the judge.
And then he says,
And then he gets all angry with her for questioning
he
him.
just totally gaslights, doesn't it? He says, "I'm just questioning myself now." And I says, "What do you mean?" And he says, "I'm questioning whether I want to spend the rest of my life with a cynical, entitled bitch
And
like
then he just
you."
walks away. The king of gaslighting. She then receives another phone while she's still sitting at the table, reeling from being called a cynical entitled.
Again, has to happen straight after.
Her mobile phone rings and she picks it up, and it's a guy called Paul Jones.
Yeah,
And it is revealed quite quickly to us that Paul Jones is the father of Sophie.
yeah. She says, he says, the woman you spoke to earlier, I was given your number. I've heard you've been asking about Robert Freegard.
Yes.
I want to talk to you."
So it seems like there's some sort of crew of people who
Yeah.
are against anti-Robert Freegard who talk to each other. And he says, "I need to talk to you about Robert Freegard because he kidnapped my daughter 9 years ago and I haven't seen her since." But she hangs up on him. She puts the phone down on him because she thinks it's another one of these tests. But then she goes to meet him.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Scene,
The next scene,
pulling
she's
up on their
pulling
drive.
up on their drive. And they tell her their side of the story of where Sophie is and what's happened. So Sophie started this uni course, agricultural college, wherever she was. and they've never seen her since.
Yeah.
She's been missing for 9 years. She telephones occasionally, but she's been completely brainwashed by this guy.
They say she only ever rings when she asks for money.
Yeah, or when we think about getting the police involved,
Yeah.
she calls and the police won't get in touch because she's an adult.
And Alice
She
says,
can be estranged from her parents if she wants to.
Alice says, please don't tell me you gave her any money. And the dad says, well, actually, she convinced us to give her inheritance early.
And she has taken 300 grand from them
Yeah.
in the 9 years that she's been missing.
And the mum says she's brainwashed.
Yeah, she's completely brainwashed by this guy. But the police won't do anything because she's an adult and she can be with whoever she wants
says
to be.
She's fine, and
she's not missing. We don't know where she is, but she keeps calling and checking in with
Yeah.
us. Meanwhile, Robert is making a new passport, and it is revealed to us that this is Alice's passport, and he is putting a picture of Sophie in it
yeah.
and dressing Sophie up to look like Alice, which was a remarkable thing because they're spitting images of each other, these two women.
But they weren't before.
No, they weren't
No.
before. No, when he makes her up to
Yeah.
be like Alice, she looks just like her.
And this is we're at like a cottage that he's
Yeah.
taken Sophie to. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alice is still with Sophie's parents, and they're like, "Look, you're in an ideal opportunity here. You can lead us to our daughter.
Yeah.
You need to help us.
Will you stay
please
with them
help
a bit
us?"
longer? And
Yeah. And Alice is like, "Look, I can't promise anything. I don't know what I'm going to do myself yet. I don't even know if any of this is true.
Yeah.
But I'm going to believe you, and we'll see what happens."
Sophie's mum tells her that Robert is an agent of the devil.
She does, indeed. And then Alice drives away from him. Meanwhile, Sophie is now fully transformed into Alice and has her passport. And is that the point where they go to the bank?
There's just one scene in between
Yeah,
where
there is,
Alice
sorry.
goes back home. Robert is there
There.
shining his shoes,
Yes.
and she says to him, "I apologise for doubting you. I just want you to know I'm all in. I love you."
Yeah.
They hug, and then we get a shot of both of their faces,
Yeah.
clearly
Neither of them
inwardly
believing the other
going,
one.
"I
This
know,
is-
she
she
knows,
knows.
she knows, I know."
Yeah. Everybody knows
Yeah.
everything, but nobody's saying anything. In the very next scene, Robert and Sophie walk into a bank.
Yeah, the next morning, I'm led
Yeah,
to
I
believe.
presume it is.
Alice is distracted at work.
Alice is not concentrating at her work at all. And suddenly, she's in a meeting with the same guy that she was in a meeting
Yeah.
with earlier. And suddenly she gets an email on her email computer. An email computer.
Yes,
Yeah, laptop
fancy
is the word.
email computer.
She gets an email from her bank saying, "We're sorry you're leaving. Your account has been closed and the withdrawal of £120,000 has been made."
Yeah.
And she's like, "You fucking bastard," and runs out of this meeting, leaving her clients and her colleagues bewildered by her behaviour.
She goes home and is going through the drawers, the cupboards. Her passport is missing.
Correct. So she does what any normal person would do and calls the police.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
The police aren't convinced a crime has been committed.
because
It's a joint
it's
account.
a joint business account that they
Which-
were going to set up for the leasing
Yeah.
company. And the police, to do anything, need to at least hear his side of the story.
Yeah.
So Alice is angry, but also, I think I've been fucking conned here and this is a problem. The police call Robert on his mobile
He answers.
and he answers. He speaks to them. He says, "Look, whatever you've been told by Alice is a lie. The business idea was never going to work.
He says, "No, I've made the withdrawal, which
Yeah.
I'm legally
You're allowed
entitled
to
to
It's
do.
my money. It's a joint bank
It is
account."
being invested in
Yeah.
for the purchase of cars for
Yeah.
our business."
But not with her. She's
Yeah.
walking away from her partnership. And then he hangs up from the policeman.
He says, "I will come to." He agrees to come to the
He
station.
does. He agrees
talk
to
them.
meet with the policeman. And
They
come
set
to
a
the
time.
station. They do. They set a date. And then he puts the phone down and throws his phone in the lake.
He does.
Um,
We then cut to him.
Which is really the first time it's revealed to... We know that this guy's a con man, but that's
Yeah.
the first time it's really revealed to us. That
But actually, he's got no feelings for Alice.
yeah,
It is
it's
just
all just
transactional.
a big con.
We then cut to him awkwardly
Boning
having sex
Sophie.
with Sophie,
Yeah,
who is zombie. That
she's
just
not in the moment at
zombie.
all.
Yeah.
But he really is. He's having a lot of fun. He's got a very sweaty back in that
has
scene.
got a sweaty back.
And then he takes Sophie on a car ride. And
It looks like an abandoned and industrial
he
estate.
just drops her off in the middle of the nowhere. And he's like, your final task of your field training is to survive.
Yeah.
You've got nothing. He gives her a mobile phone. And he says, wait for my call. I will call you.
Or he says, "Someone will call you,
But also,
likely me."
there's no credit on this phone. Don't put any credit on this phone because that is an instant fail. and just hang around and wait for it.
He says, "Don't leave this postcode. Someone will contact you. Don't
Yeah.
contact anyone else." Gives her a few quid.
And then just drives away
Yeah.
and leaves her just in the middle of nowhere.
She's literally just in tracky bottoms and a vest top.
Yeah. And he's got no intention of ever calling. This is it for them too. He's got no intention of ever seeing her again. He's just abandoned her. Alice leaves him a message on his phone saying, "I know you're not going to hear this message. There's a very high chance you're not going to hear this message, but I just need you to know that you have not broken me.
Yeah.
I will beat you." And she's like full on hardcore mode in this. Her boss, I really like this scene. Her boss comes in to her office and he's like, "The board think that you might need a holiday.
Yeah.
You've not been with it the last few weeks." And she says, "Cut the bullshit. Should I be looking for a new job?" And he's like,
If that makes you happy.
"Yeah, probably."
I could just... This is on me,
Yeah.
but I couldn't in this scene not imagine Johnson from Peep Show delivering this speech to her.
The response to that is yes. Well, he says yes, basically.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yes, sure." So she goes for a drink. She goes to this bar. She's got a martini. And she gets a phone call from Robert at this point on her mobile. He apologises to her.
He says, "I'm
He says,
sorry."
"My love for you is real. I
Yeah.
do love you. I'm sorry I've done this to you. One day we will sort this out."
And hangs up.
And then hangs up. She's furious at this point because that's like, how has she allowed him to get the last word?
Poking the bear with a stick.
Yes. And a very bad timing. This other guy comes and approaches her in the bar and tries to pick her up.
Was he? We don't even know that.
Well, we don't
I think
even know. I think he was. Yeah.
But yeah.
I
He
think
says
what she
3
said
words. He says, "I was wondering," or
yeah,
something
and
like that.
she cuts him off. She's like, "Were you wondering if this drunk woman in the middle of the
Was
day
going to
is
take
gonna
you
come
back
in
and
fuck
do-
you?"
yeah.
And then you never talk to her again. And she's really horrible to him, but she's absolutely right in everything she says, I think. She goes home. She destroys the cheetah picture.
Yeah.
She literally gets a corkscrew to it and
Yeah.
just rips it to pieces. And in the next scene, the PI's back. Julian Barrett's back on the scene.
She and Alice asks him to help her find
Yeah.
Robert.
And the PI's like, "That is a very bad idea.
Yeah.
I did 18 years as a policeman." And I really like this. He says the police only deal with 3 types of people. He's like, "We deal with the mad, the sad, and the bad."
Yeah.
And what you've got here is a prime case of a bad person.
Yeah. Who just can't stop doing what he's
Can't
doing.
stop being a criminal. And you need to stay clear of him. And she's like, "Will you be offended if I don't take your advice?" And he says, "No, I fully expect you to not take my advice."
But he tells her to be careful.
But he says, "Be very careful." Cut back to Robert. He's got a new job.
Selling cars.
Selling cars at a different car showroom.
Not quite as upmarket
No,
as the
a
one
bit
where
more,
he met
bit more
Alice.
standard. Alice, meanwhile, goes to meet... Oh, no, Robert meets this new lady, doesn't he? He's trying to sell her a
A
car.
blonde lady
A blonde
walks
lady
into
walks
the
in.
parking.
Alice goes to meet
Lot.
Ian. So Ian is the guy from the beginning, the third student guy who was with Sophie and May.
So she's got a tip off.
She somehow
presumably
managed to
from
find-
a PI.
Yeah, I think somehow managed to track him down. And he says, "Look, I was with Robert for 2 years. We were on the run from... Because they ran from the IRA
Yeah.
and we're on the run for 2 years. And he told me I could become part of the MI5. And I was recruiting for 4 years.
Yeah.
And doing his bidding and doing everything he said. And then
He's-
one day,
he's like dropping packages off and
making him money, doing whatever.
observing people.
Yeah.
And
And then one day I woke up because she says, "Why? How did you get away from him?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "I didn't get away from him." One day I woke up and they'd all gone.
Yeah.
And they left me, and he'd just been abandoned in exactly the same way that Sophie's just been abandoned, I
Yeah.
guess. So she goes back to the cops. She wants Robert done for kidnap.
She
because-
says, she says, "I think this is kidnapping."
"Yeah,
And there's like a one-liner here where the cop's like, "Oh, I'm not sure that's the definition of kidnapping."
Yeah.
We know this person is contacting her parents fairly infrequently, but she
Yeah.
is saying, "Yeah, I'm okay. Don't worry about it."
And she gives him the legal definition of kidnap,
Yeah.
doesn't he?
And it's like it's a couple of lines in this, but it's interesting as
Yeah.
it pertains to what happened in real life, which we'll touch on maybe.
yeah,
at the end.
absolutely. It's revealed during this conversation that sometimes he uses the third girl. He uses her surname,
Yeah.
which is a bit of a crime. So
Yeah.
the cop's interested at that point. He's like, if he has kidnapped this girl and he's using her name, then yes, fair enough, we've got something. So the cop agrees to look into it.
So they look to do a background check on May, who's
Yeah,
the
the
third
third girl.
person who we've not seen since the start of the movie.
Yeah, whose name he does use sometimes. Meanwhile, we come back to Robert. He's having dinner with a new woman. She is an American, but she's also a psychologist.
Yeah.
And that worries him because he can't be around psychologists. You don't want to be looking inside his head.
She says straight away, "What are you hiding
Yeah,
from
what's your
me?"
hi-
And
what's your
he
secret?
just goes for it, and he
Tells her
starts
straight away.
the MI5 spiel.
Tells her everything straight away. She cut to Sophie. Sophie's just running around aimlessly alone.
Living under a bridge.
Living under a bridge, doing nothing. He takes Jenny to the same lighthouse. Jenny is the new American blonde psychologist
Yep.
lady. He takes her to the same lighthouse that he took Alice to for a long weekend away. And he says to her, look, there's a potential job coming up at work. Would you be interested in becoming an intelligence analyst?
Yeah, you're an
She
analyst. Analyst.
Analyst.
You got a degree in psychology. You'd
Yep,
be great.
You'd be
a good
great. You
fit.
should try it.
And she's like, "Yeah, well, I hadn't thought,
I hadn't thought about
sort of
that.
thing, but yeah, maybe
But
I could
also,
look into
but
it."
then she says, but I've also got a bit of a confession to give to you. And she's like, I am on a cocktail of antidepressants.
Yeah.
Since I got divorced, I am taking a lot of drugs. And he says that's not an issue. We can get you off them. That's not a problem. And the next day, I presume the next day, they're still on this holiday. They're walking down along the beach. And he says,
Have you given any more thought to
have you
the-
given any more thought to it? And she says, yeah, I might go for it. And he says, there is one problem. You're an American, so I assume you've got a lot of
No,
student debt.
he says, didn't you mention you've got,
Got some student
or
debt, yeah.
something like that?
And she's like, well, yeah, I'm American. Of course I've got student debt.
Yeah.
We've all got student debt. She's in debt for $80,000. And he's like, that might be a problem. We need to probably, is there any way we can pay that off? Can you pay that off? Can you borrow the money maybe?
Yeah, he's like, is this? It's not. He's like, you wouldn't get a job in the Secret Service with that amount of debt.
Yeah, that's basically what he's saying. And she says, well, maybe I could ask my parents if I can borrow it.
To pay it off. Yeah.
Pay it off. I'll make the phone call. Meanwhile, Alice and the cop have gone to visit May. They found an address for May. And for some reason, the cops decided he's going to take this civilian along with him.
Yeah, which is, yeah.
Happens in movies all the time, but would never happen in real life. And they go to the house, and May invites them in, and there are two blonde girls, young girls there, who it turns out are Robert's daughters. And Robert, according to May, is still on the scene with May.
Yeah, he
he's
says
just
he
not
comes and
around
goes
it. Yeah,
because
he's-
of his job, but yeah, he
he's-
looks after it.
Yeah, he's my. Yeah, I think were they married? Yeah, I think they had got married.
I don't know if they were married.
I'm
but
sure he said they got. She said they got married, but maybe. But he works away a lot, and she also says he told me you'd come. He told me somebody would
I'd
come,
be tested.
and I'd be tested for my loyalty, and so they realise that they need to. Alice,
they need to
realises
change
They need to change approaches. So they kind of trick her.
She says, "We're not. That's."
Not what's happening.
She's like, "Yeah, that could happen, but that's not where."
Yeah.
So we're here because he is in danger.
He's on a job and he's in trouble.
Yeah, we need to get hold of him.
And so May's like, oh shit, okay. There's a notebook
Yeah.
in his drawer. Maybe that will give you some help. So they leave. They're with this notebook. The cop's fuming with Alice because she's the one who changed the story.
Yeah, because before they'd gone in, he's like, "Let me do all the talking," that old thing.
Yeah.
And he barely says
Spoke
a word. Yeah.
So she says to him, look, I need to stop him because he never stops. He just goes on and on and on until somebody stops him. He will never stop. And I need to be that person. And the cop says, I'm not seeing any crimes
He's like,
here.
"We've not got enough."
There's no crimes. I'm not seeing anything here that's a crime. When we get back to Alice's apartment or flat or house or wherever she lives in, this notebook is just unlabeled mobile phone numbers.
Yeah.
Hundreds of them in this notebook. So Alice starts ringing them, and they're all disconnected. None of them go anywhere. They all just, this number has not been recognised.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Sophie's still sleeping on the street. She's still sleeping under this bed, under this bridge. Still waiting for this call from Robert that's never going to come. Come back to Jenny and Robert. Jenny's now having second thoughts about calling her parent.
Why has he now gone psycho?
Yeah, he does go a bit psycho.
Just because it's the end of the film.
I think he freaked out that she was a psychologist and he needed to change the way. He's never done it this way around
I don't know if
before.
you're giving it a bit.
But maybe I am.
Too
Maybe
much credit.
Maybe I am. He does.
I
He
feel
isn't
like
as.
just because we're now in the last act,
Yeah,
he's
maybe.
got to go to a proper bad guy.
Yeah, I think his thinking was that I need to change tack with this woman because she can't get in my head. But yeah, it's weak.
Because he just throws their drugs in the fire.
Yeah, he's like, look, we need to get you off these drugs, and just throws them in the fire. And she freaks out. She's like, I need those. I'm going to go mental now. And he's like, look, you need to call your parents. We need to make this call. We need this money. The cop then bangs on Alice's door and says, we need to go. Get your coat. We need to go to the American embassy.
Yes.
And I'm like, interesting. This film was taking a turn. And they go. They meet this lady at the American embassy. And it turns out that the FBI have raised concerns to the American embassy about one of their citizens living in London.
Yes.
Jenny Jackson. And she has been in London for a few months now, I think she says.
Yeah.
And she stopped calling her parents about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
And until recently, she's called them and asked them for quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
How have the FBI found out about this?
Well, presumably the parents have got in touch with the embassy or
and said, oh, my daughter's not rang me for 3 weeks. Can you have a look into it?
No, yeah, we've not heard from our daughter who's travelling around the UK.
Yeah. Can you look into
until
it? Until
last week she's rang us asking for 80 grand. What the hell's going on?
Yeah. That seemed weak to me.
Yeah.
That seemed weak.
Not as weak as the fact that Alice is now on such a rampage that she basically takes over this investigation.
Yeah.
She's already strong-armed the police. She now strong-arms the FBI and was basically like, I'm not qualified in any way, but I'm in charge of this operation.
Absolutely. We need to keep bringing these numbers in this notebook. She's like, I'm convinced something's going to happen.
And the FBI agent's like, just give me the notebook.
Yeah.
If you don't give me the notebook, I'll court order it.
Yeah. And then Alice gives her some legal jargon about why she can't do that. And then the American bends over and is like, yeah, okay, you made the phone calls. We'll just listen in.
Phone calls, it's less suspicious.
Bear in mind that all of these phone numbers so far haven't got anywhere anyway. And so they do. There's this wiretap in Sophie's house as well. They're just all sitting there. And the first number, it appears the first number they try gets them through to Sophie.
No, to be fair, Alice has rang a lot of the numbers.
Yeah, she has. But the first one they appear to try while they're wired up gets them through to Sophie. She answers. It's the mobile phone that Sophie's been given.
Yeah.
She answers it expecting it to be Robert. It isn't Robert.
Alice again thinks on her feet. She's like, "Yeah, we're colleagues of Robert's. We're ready to bring you in.
Yeah, you're ready to be brought.
Where are you?
Yeah." So, and Sophie's asking questions like, well, Robert said it would only be him that rings, and they come up with an excuse when they find out where she is. Meanwhile, Robert is now gone full on psycho. He's got Jenny tied up somewhere, and he's making her ring her parents under duress. He's kind of holding her head as she's making this phone call.
She's reading out a script that he's written.
Yeah.
Basically demanding the money at this point.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alice and the cop and the American lady have all gone to fetch Sophie, but Alice is like dictating still what's going on. She's like, we can't tell her the truth.
She's been to keep up the act for a bit longer.
Being conned for 9 years. And to be fair to the American lady, she's like, yeah, you're right. That would break her if she found out. Jenny, meanwhile, is now a mess because she's coming off drugs. She's like fetal position, throwing up everywhere. Yeah. She's not in a good way. The cop and Alice and the American pick up Sophie. She breaks down in their arms, and they take her back to the station.
This was probably the best acting.
I thought Sophie was really good.
Yeah, it's not a big part in this film.
No, but she is.
But it was a good performance.
I'm going to get her name.
Yeah, I think it's worth that shout out. She's in
Marissa Abella.
5 or 6 scenes, but she does a good job.
She's the linchpin of this movie. She's actually in Barbie, according to her IMDb.
Cool.
So they put her in the back of the car, take her back to the station, still under the guise of we're bringing you in, back off your mission that you've been on. Robert then drags an unconscious Jenny up the stairs of this.
Puts her in the
window.
bath, and he's like, "Just be sick in here. I don't have to clean it up, man."
But then he spits at himself in the mirror.
Yeah, it was
he
weird.
looks at himself in the mirror and spits at himself because he's fucked up here. He knows that whatever he's doing with Jenny is not his normal plan. Back at the police station, they start questioning Sophie. She leads them to Saffron Walden, which is a lovely town just outside Cambridge.
They ask her. This interrogation questioning was very strange. They basically say to her, so you've been on the run place to place for the last basically 10 years. She's like, yeah. And they ask her, is there anywhere that he took you that felt like home?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, now you mention it, I think there's only one place I was ever blindfolded to go to. And they're like, where was it?
Yeah.
And she's like,
I was
well,
blindfolded for a start.
yeah, she's like, well, I was blindfolded, but luckily I've had 9 years of training. So they say when one sense is dulled, the rest of your senses pick up. And she gives them this
She gives them an exact
detailed
idea of where
description.
they went, and it leads them to Saffron Walden.
Oh, well, and the FBI lady goes, well, actually, that's interesting because a bunch of these burner phones were purchased there.
Yeah.
So.
Jenny's phone rings and her parents call, but Robert answers, and they say, "Look, we've transferred the money.
Yeah.
Is Jenny okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's fine. She's in the bath," which is true. She is in the bath. She's not okay, but she's in the bath. So Robert's got their money now.
I don't really understand how this happened, or even if the movie went to very much effort to explain it. But somehow, the
movie
two
went to
cops,
no effort to explain
the two
it.
cops, Alice and Sophie, arrive at exactly the right house.
Yes. So they stop at one house, which appears to be on the way, talk to a lady that lives there.
They're like,
and
no,
then
this isn't it.
Suddenly they're at the right house. Yeah, the movie made no explanation of how they did that. So they're at the house. So the cop goes to the front door. The American lady goes somewhere else, and Alice wanders around the back. As she wanders around the back, Robert's about to. I think is he going to leave? Is he leaving Jenny there?
No, he's
got the money.
Now they've got the money.
Yeah.
He says to her, "Oh, I think I might have seen some spare drugs from your prescription in the car. I'll go and."
But was he doing that, or was he just going to leave her because he got the money?
Well,
I assumed he was just leaving her there.
He'd got the money. They transferred it to her, so I thought he was going to get the drugs. But
okay, maybe I assumed he was about to leave. So anyway, he bumps into Alice outside, which freaks him out because he was expecting to never see her again.
Yeah.
And she says to him, "Look, you have to stop at some point. This is the point. The cops are at the front. The FBI are out the back. You've got no chance here."
Yeah.
And he says, "Well, come with me then.
Yeah.
I love you. What I said about loving you is true. I'm in love with you. You're the only person I've ever felt anything for. Come with me." And is she ever considering it? She looked like she was. I don't think she was.
I don't think she was, but there is definitely a flicker for a second that she might have been considering it.
The cops then realise what's going on. They come out. They spot Robert as well. Robert gets in the car, goes to drive away. They all dive out the way of the car. But Sophie has been left in their car.
Yeah.
She reverses their car and he crashes into that car. So did Sophie know what was going on here? Why she stopped Robert leaving?
Whether she'd listened in or she just
had
enough.
She just figured it out. She knew what was going on. So he crashes the car. The airbag comes out. He gets knocked out. The next scene, we see him getting arrested. Jenny gets put in an ambulance. And you think, okay, this is going to be the end of the film. Jenny's going to be okay. Robert's been arrested. They take Sophie home to her parents.
Yeah.
Sophie gets reunited with her parents.
Alice gets to take her home.
Yeah, Alice gets to take Sophie home. That is true. Alice then tells her story in court.
Yeah.
To Robert.
I laughed out loud at this bit.
Yeah, same. Because for some reason the judge says to her, after she's finished telling the story to the judge says to her, "I understand you're not a lawyer anymore."
Yeah.
And she says, "No, I'm not. I left being a lawyer.
I'm a really successful businesswoman."
Yeah. And I run a car leasing company.
Yeah.
And he looks at her
Seriously,
as if she's just said,
"I'm really fucking rich."
Yeah. And he looks at her as if she's just pissed on his grandparents. Yeah. He's like really fuming. And I was like, what? That did not need to happen. Then Alice goes back to the Tibetan Bell Lighthouse where she ends her movie. She's done now. She meets up with the lady who works there.
Because there's 5 minutes. She's trying to throw her out. There's 5 minutes left. And then she's like, it's really beautiful.
She's just wistfully looking over London. Meanwhile, we cut to a prison where Robert is. And the prison officer comes in and gives him some dinner. And he says, "I understand you're undercover working for the MI5.
There's rumours going around.
There's rumours going around that you work for MI5 and you're undercover."
And he says, anything.
And Robert says to him, "Don't talk like that. You'll get me killed."
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "Yeah, understood. No problem. If you need anything, you know where I am."
Yeah.
So he's got the prison officer on side.
That's it.
That's it. That's the end of the movie. There's a bit of text telling you the end of Robert's story here, but it's not quite the end of Robert's story. So he was given a life sentence, but after a few successful appeals, he was actually released from prison in 2009. So he only served 7 years at the most.
I think he was only actually in jail for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And essentially what seems to have happened is that his appeal was successful, basically on arguing the definition of kidnapping.
Yeah.
Which was that sort of throwaway line about 2/3 of the way through this movie.
Yeah. He has been out of prison since then. Currently, Robert Freegard is still alive. He's still a person, and he's currently on pre-trial detention in France for something to do with animal smuggling,
Yeah,
dogs and things like that.
yeah.
If you're interested in this story, Netflix does have a true crime documentary on this story that was released in 2022. It is called The Puppet Master: Hunting the Ultimate Con Man, which will give you the actual true story of this.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. I did intend to watch it, but it's actually a few episodes, so I didn't get a chance. That will give you the true story, because this movie is, from what I can understand, not anywhere near the true story. This may be inspired by the fact that one character's name is the same. I think that's pretty much it, from what I can understand. What did you think of this movie, Nick?
I don't want to blow our own trumpet here. I almost feel like we've made this movie sound better than it is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I did like parts of it, and I think on the whole the actors do their best. I think I'm blanking. Who's the guy who plays Robert Freegard?
James Norton.
I think he's very charismatic.
Yeah, agreed.
He's creepy.
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite as swoony as everyone who seems
he's
to
not
just
as good looking as people
fall
seem
into
to make
his
him out to
path
be.
and his spell. And Gemma Arterson's fine. There are just, it's got a clunky script, and it, considering it's nearly 2 hours long.
Yeah, it is.
We don't fall under Freegard's spell.
No.
Or at least I didn't. And that, I think that stopped me from really investing in this.
You never really understand why these people are falling for it.
Yeah. That doesn't
Which is
come
an
out
issue.
of the screen.
Yeah, that's an issue in a movie like this.
Yes. It's fine, but it doesn't go the whole hog. It doesn't go into the... I think it leaves drama on the table. It leaves trauma on the table. We don't see enough of what he's put these people through that have been under his spell for years and years and years. And that is... The movie is worse off for that, because... And then at times it just feels like a TV movie of the week.
It does. It very much feels like
But
ITV
not all the way
crime
through.
drama. It does feel like British crime drama. It's... like you say, the script is weak. There's parts of the story that just don't hold together.
It feels like a Harlan Coben type thing.
Yeah, it does, but
You know,
not as good, probably. I mean, I don't know how good those things are, but this...
Not great. But
No, but this isn't great either. It's like... he had these 3 students for 9 years, but you don't get any of that story. And you don't... He left Ian. Just left him one day. But why did he not make any attempt to rescue the other 2 women when he realised what was going on? What?
There's... Alice's character is fine, but not... I would have traded some of Alice's time for a bit more time with characters like Ian.
Yeah.
To really try and get the impact of what this guy had done across.
It's difficult to empathise with a high-powered business lawyer
Who's very rich.
who's very rich.
And not that anyone...
She wasn't even that bothered
wants
about losing
120
it.
grand
She wasn't
loss,
that bothered
but-
about losing it.
Yeah.
I couldn't empathise with that character, and I just didn't get on board with anybody in it. I'm like,
What I don't understand is how this is so highly rated on IMDb.
yeah, 6.4 is
6.4.
high.
Way too high.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
the Happy Valley crowd, though, isn't it? It's those sort of people that like that sort of ITV.
It's
stuff.
just pretty paint by numbers,
It
isn't
is.
it?
It's very generic. It's not at all what I was expecting, but it is. I feel like the true crime documentary would be much more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I just don't think there's anything that sticks in my mind about it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not. It's not a memorable movie. It's a look. It's a look. It is far and away. It's a better movie than Mad Dogs because it's a movie and it's got narrative sense to it. But
Come the end of the season,
I
which
am
one are you
remembering
gonna-
this movie.
Come the end of the season, we're going to be like, what was that one again?
It's not, but it's nowhere near as bad as. I don't want to bunch it with, intrusion and.
I think I
secret
would.
Obsession. I don't think it's that bad.
There's
a bit more to it than that.
Maybe it's them. It's that sort of genre of
Yeah,
movie.
it is.
though.
It is. Yeah.
It is the paint by numbers crime dramas that we've seen lots of.
Person X is not all they seem.
Yeah, it's not far off them. Yeah, it's a shame. What's the best thing about it?
I was more. I think this is the crux of it for me. I was more invested in how Robert had controlled and manipulated Ian, May, and Sophie than I was with what he was doing with Alice.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's what this movie's about.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
There's a better story.
The side story.
The 9 years of
was
that
the best
time
bit
is a
of it
better
for me.
story. Yeah, you're right. Well, I can't ask you what you would change about it because there's a lot by the sounds of it.
I just there's.
Is the cast good enough?
I think the supporting cast is good.
Are the two leads good enough?
I don't know if they're good enough to carry this.
I'd agree. I'm with you.
They're fine, but they're not.
Good enough.
Gemma Arterson's very closed, I thought,
Yeah.
in this. Well, the character of Alice, we should say, is very
Yeah.
closed.
Very much dialing it in, I think.
And, well, you said it. Not, you don't empathise with her.
Yeah, it's difficult to empathise with a character like that. Right, should we talk Stream Table?
Yeah, let's do it.
Want me to read through the whole thing?
Yeah, sure.
Currently at number 12, this is the 13th movie. Currently at number 12 is Riptide. At number 11 is Hard Feelings. At number 10 is Bloody New Year. At number 9 is Mad Dogs. Number 8 is Hypnotic. Number 7 is Some Dogs. Number 6 is Green Sea. Number 5 is Bubble. Number 4 is Finder's Fee. Number 3 is The Girl in the Yellow Jumper. Currently number 2 is 60 Minutes. And at number 1 is The Call. Wildcard this week. It's the 4th wildcard out of 6 going into this season's Stream Table. Currently, wildcards are placed at number 1, number 2, and number 9. Where's this one going?
Do you know what? I just said not but 5 minutes ago. It's a better movie than Mad Dogs. But I'm looking at the Stream Table now.
There's no way it goes above Hypnotic.
And that's probably the movie that it is
Closest resembling.
in terms of layout, story.
This is going to be tough, right? Because-
Hypnotic is like the stupid version of this movie.
Yes. We need to figure out what this Stream Table is at this point, because if we're going on how good this is as a movie, is this good? This goes just below Hypnotic for me. If we're going, how much did you enjoy this movie? This goes just below Bloody New Year for me. Because I enjoyed Mad Dogs and Bloody New Year a lot more than I enjoyed this.
Well, let's split the difference then, because I would have this above Bloody New Year.
Yeah, I think I think you're right.
Because you're weird.
Yeah, I am weird. We know this.
I mean, I wasn't pitching. I have no Mad Dog in the fight. I would not be pitching this to be below Mad Dogs. Well, it wasn't before we started this conversation.
I think it has to.
I kind of rested it just below Hypnotic.
Hypnotic is a better movie than this. It definitely goes below Hypnotic.
But I'm open to that. If you would be interested in putting Mad Dogs higher than
We
this,
said it. We said it when we were just talking just a minute ago. Come the end of the season, you're going to remember Mad Dogs more than you're going to remember this movie. That makes Mad Dogs a better movie.
I just feel that this movie is. This movie and movies like this are 10 a penny, regardless of the fact that it's a true story.
You're right. And they've all got generic names, like Rogue Agent, like Secret Obsession, like The Intrusion. They just don't mean it. Rogue Agent doesn't mean anything in this movie. It's not even... It's just that... It's just generic AI generated title. Well, it wasn't, but it should
TV
be.
movie with a better cast.
Yeah.
And the cast. The cast elevates the movie higher than its script is.
Yeah.
I think.
This movie goes 10th in our Stream Table.
Yeah.
And it won't be in the top 10 for long. Hopefully. Yeah?
But I can see why it would be a punt for a wild card.
No, 100%. But looking at the synopsis, it's a true crime.
cast.
It's a true story. The cast's great.
The rating on IMDb.
The title's awful. The rating on IMDb. The synopsis is good. The movie's just not. It's as simple as that. The story's too weak, and the cast are not good enough.
I think it's too much drama and left on the table.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Right, Robin, that lazy little randomizer, has had 2 weeks off. So shall we get him back off his holidays?
Yeah, let's see what she wants to do next time around.
What would you like him to generate for you, Nick? What movie would you like to watch next week?
I think I'm fairly open to what we can get, having had the madness of Mad Dogs
And the banality of this one.
and then this. Maybe something with some explosions. I don't think much has exploded this season
True.
in our stream table.
You ready for me to press Robin's button?
Sure.
He has picked us a movie called The Influence. Any ideas, Nick?
No, none whatsoever.
Okay, let's look it up on IMDb for you. Oh, interesting. Spanish movie.
Well,
Very interesting.
if you're a member of our Discord and you heard our birthday special episode, you may have heard us talk about
Spanish movies.
Spanish movies. So
We've done a few Spanish movies on this show, and they're usually quite good. The Influence is according to IMDb, a supernatural horror movie.
okay,
Horror is mentioned twice. Would you like a synopsis?
I sure would.
After moving back to her family home to care for her dying mother, a nurse haunted by her childhood memories must struggle with an evil force in the house.
Okay.
Sounds very much like a supernatural horror movie. Very much Spanish, very much horror. 4.6 out of 10 on IMDb.
Oh, okay.
The exact opposite of this week. That was 6.4, 4.6. So yeah, go out and watch The Influence. And in the meantime, check us out on Instagram and Letterboxd at BOTS_podcast. If you want to drop us an email, our email address is bottomofthestream@gmail.com and our website is bottomofthestream.com. On our website, you'll find every episode we've ever recorded, all of our stream tables, loads of other cool stuff, and you can even get some merch if you want to buy a Bottom of the Stream.
What was this movie? Oh, painting of a cheetah in a boat.
Painting of a cheetah in a boat. After you've done all of that, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/bottomofthestream. On there, for £5 of your English pounds every month, you will get early access to episodes. You'll get bonus episodes. You will get an exclusive area of our Discord that only Patreons and me and Nick are allowed into. And you will also get a wild card, which means you can do what Sam's just done, attempt to win the season's wildcard race. If you do win, you will get a prize at the end of the season. Sam, unfortunately, currently bottom of the wildcard race. 2 left to play this season. Going to be interesting. After you've done the Patreon thing, head over to Discord. The Discord is a wonderful group full of wonderful people. We have got loads of cool stuff going on in Discord. In fact, this week is the best time to ever join our Discord because there's a very secret surprise that we're not even mentioning to the general public in the Discord. If you join it, you'll get it straight away. We play games. We've got Watch Along coming up this weekend.
Yes.
Loads of cool stuff goes on in the Discord. Just come and join it. The Discord link will be in the bottom of the show notes.
If you can spare a few minutes, please leave us a rating and review anywhere you can review and rate podcasts. You can find us on all the big ones, all the small ones. We are on places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, YouTube Music, all the ones in between. Come find us and say hi.
Come and say hi. Yeah, another week done.
Indeed.
Anniversary week done.
Absolutely. Here's to the next 5 years.
Here's to the next 5 years. Thanks to everybody who's listened over the last 5 years. Everybody's interacted with us. Everybody's picked a movie. Everybody's talked to us. We've loved it. We're going to keep doing it forever. And it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't care if you've downloaded one episode or all 300 and however many we've done. Just, we really appreciate it.
Nearly 400.
We did not think that we would, A, do this many episodes, and B, we started this for our enjoyment and for us to spend time together and talk about these movies, and the fact that people out there listen to it and enjoy it and interact with us is just a massive bonus. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Come back here on Monday for another episode of The Wave and next Thursday for the movie show.
Cheers.
Bye.